For the 90% of men, they have to swipe on average 1,000 times to get one date.
This is Tiff. She's a life coach that'll help you get more matches and build up your confidence because, let's be honest, it can be tough out here. What do you think is like the toughest part about dating?
Where do I begin, Ryan?
Tiff graduated from UCLA with degrees in psychology and biology, and her work took her through healthcare consulting, operations, and user research. Even with a successful career, she kept on feeling like something was missing.
That I was meant to do something in like the healing and growth space.
Tiff said goodbye to the corporate world and now works as a certified life coach where she helps people navigate a variety of topics, including career, life changes, and relationships.
The beautiful, awkward messiness of being human, of like...
In today's episode, you're gonna hear the wrong things that people are doing while dating, and we'll give you strategies that you can use right away to go on better dates. Tiff also talks about how meeting someone by chance isn't actually true, and that there are 4 important things that you can do to get more matches and meet more people. What's something that a lot of people get wrong about dating? Welcome to the talking stage. Welcome to the talking stage, and Tiff, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I guess your background as a life coach, can you explain like why you wanted to get into that? What made you want to get started? And like what was your journey and what was the process like?
Yeah, this is actually one of the hardest questions for me to answer. Like, I love talking about coaching so much. I have so much to share on this topic. And yeah, I guess a bit about my background. So I grew up as the daughter of Taiwanese immigrants. My parents are separated. I would say there was a lot of chaos in my household when I was younger. And I've always been someone that was very good at holding space for others. And also someone that generally just like believed in what was possible for people. And I think I knew for a long time that I was meant to do something in like the healing and growth space and to work really deeply with people, but it took me a lot of experimentation to understand what that was exactly. So like in college, I majored in psychology and science at UCLA. So I worked with underrepresented communities a lot. So like the homeless population, like other like folks from low income backgrounds. And then I went into consulting for a few years and then worked at Grammarly for a few years. So I ended up taking the corporate path, which I learned so much from those times, but I also, I think, knew for a while that there was this like way of connecting with people that I had that wasn't really being fulfilled in those spaces. And then I considered becoming a therapist for some time, because I think just naturally when you think of healing modalities that like are more accessible to people, like therapy is often the first place that people start. And I think like being a therapist, I would have been really happy with that. But like when I learned about coaching, it seemed like a better fit, just in terms of, I think like one quote to kind of capture it. So like they say that with therapy, it's following the trail of tears, whereas with coaching, you're following the trail of dreams. And like I love understanding people's stories so much and like supporting them through that. But at the same time, I'm also someone where it's just like, you have this wild dream. Like I think it's possible for you, and I want you to believe that it's possible for you. And that's what I'm able to do now in my work as a like coach for people, is really to support them in advocating for themselves and putting themselves first and understanding like the greatness and power that they have, and being able to move away like the fears and the limiting beliefs and all of that to get them there. So that's like a bit about my journey and like how I ended up being a coach. It's something that I have been doing like full-time for some time now, after like leaving my job at Grammarly to like follow my own dreams. And it's been an amazing journey.
I love that. I mean, what you said about the trail of tears versus the trail of dreams, I think that's very empowering. Therapy and coaching, while it's a lot more, I'd say, accepted in society now, there's still some taboo, but I think that hearing that should really empower people to kind of do, or like embark on a coaching journey, or embark on like a therapy, I don't know if journey is experience is the right word, but then I think that'd be just very beneficial, or anyone can benefit and anyone can have a pretty positive ROI when they go into like coaching or going into therapy.
Right, definitely.
And also like, you know, because you also had the corporate experience, now that you're, you know, you did that and you're like, that probably wasn't for me, that wasn't as fulfilling. Now you can do something that you're really passionate about and you're really into.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I will say, like, one quick note on the corporate piece is I do think I learned so much from that time. So one is just like some of my clients are from the corporate world, for example. So I think being able to relate to them in like, what does it mean to be part of this like larger structure and company where like the business needs are the top priority and you have like a manager to report to and like a team, and like handling just kind of like the communication that is needed in like the workplace in that regard. And because I was at Grammarly for a while, like I don't think my heart was ever like fully in tech necessarily, but my heart was in Grammarly for a long time, where it's focused around communication, making the world a better place by like supporting people to become better communicators. And yeah, and it's like interesting as I was reflecting on how my time there has impacted how much I care about communication and my understanding of what like communication is, right? And like what does it take to clearly communicate with people. And that's also something where as I support my clients in being able to advocate for themselves and being able to, you know, like handle conflict in a way that is both confident and compassionate, and like, you know, like it doesn't have to be aggressive. Like you can like stand up for what you want without needing to like be in someone's face and like really aggressive about it. I also think like a lot of that came from my learnings at Grammarly as well. Yeah.
So you took what you learned from the corporate consulting or like corporate world, and then now you can apply that as a coach, which is awesome too. What were you doing at Grammarly?
Yeah, I was in an operations role. So Grammarly basically has a team of around like 100 to 200 editors who are freelancers, and my team helped manage that team basically. So my role is very generalist. It involved things like community engagement initiatives. I was doing like user research for some time. I did like data analytics. It was basically anything that was needed to keep this like little service within like the larger business of Grammarly as a whole going. So I think that was also good in that I picked up like project management skills and like a lot of other like useful skills that have now allowed me to like work for myself as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, because then you got to see kind of the behind the scenes of a business, or you got to see everything that you know helps the business sustain itself.
Exactly. It's like a mini startup and like mini entrepreneur hat.
Yeah. No, I love that. A lot of my friends that are dating commonly complain that people lack emotional intelligence and people don't really have a grasp of their like EQ. Do you find that harder as a coach because, you know, I guess yours is a lot higher? Like, do you feel like you psychoanalyze your dates a lot more?
Yeah, good question. Yes.
Yes.
Probably. Yeah, short answer, yes. But I would say I've like been a pretty self-aware person for a while now. So I think even before I officially stepped into a coaching role, I was already, I guess to be blunt, like more emotionally intelligent than the average person. I would say that as a coach, sometimes I feel like I have to turn it off when I'm not in a coaching conversation, because like you don't really want to coach unless there's like permission and consent from the other person, right? That's just like ethics of coaching. And I feel like sometimes when I'm interacting with someone, so whether it's in like a potential like romantic prospect or just a friend, I have to like set aside my like coaching listening and be like, okay, like I'm just gonna listen to you, not for like these fears I hear coming up or these limiting beliefs that I hear coming up, or you know, like any of that, but instead just like as a person and as a human, like remain curious, you know, without that. I do think that the world could be more emotionally intelligent in general. And you mentioned like a city like New York. I think that New York is a very extroverted place, which doesn't have to be completely counter to being emotionally intelligent. But I also think like it's such a chaotic space that doesn't allow for the like reflection, introspection, the time, and like the mental headspace for you to really dig deep into like who you are and like why you're acting a certain way, and like what feelings are coming up for you, and like what your triggers are, like who you like and like don't like, and like what is it about the two of you in dynamic that like do or don't work with each other. So I do see how it could be exacerbated here also.
No, that makes sense. Also, like what you said about coaching, I think I agree with your point. I think the worst type of advice is unsolicited advice, right?
Yeah.
Or like there's no one wants to listen to like advice when they're not ready for it,
yes,
right? And
yes,
I think that's
exactly.
you know, I remember growing up, especially like when I was in like high school or middle school, high school, college, and my parents would tell me something. If I was not in the mood to listen, I'd just be like, oh, this is like stupid. So I totally agree with that. But one thing that you also mentioned was that people in the city, because there's so much going on, there's so much chaos, there's so many like dates going on, people don't have time for reflection. I guess, what do you think is like the toughest part about dating in a city like New York?
Where do I begin, Ryan? Okay. The toughest part, I think it depends what you're looking for, I'll say. So from my perspective, I feel like when I wasn't looking for like a monogamous, consistent relationship, dating in New York was so fun because there's so many interesting people. Like there's like all these different creative pursuits. I dated like actors and artists and also like people in tech or like lawyers, you know, people of different backgrounds. Because for me, it really is just the person as a whole and like how they're showing up. Yeah, people of like different ethnicities as well. And I found that I think dating's like it's a very good way to get a more intimate glimpse into someone's life, more so than if you were to maybe start off on a friendship basis where it's like you see each other like maybe once every few months. You know, if it's like new friends like busy in New York. So I'm very grateful for that because I think I've grown and learned so much about myself. But to answer your question, I would say that it is precisely because in a way I think there are so many people. There's different relationship structures, right? Some people are monogamous, some people are poly, like etc. It's just a very busy place, and yeah, people might be like less likely to commit here, I have found, for any number of reasons. So like some of the ones I just mentioned, I've encountered people who like just moved to New York not too long ago, and like no one really comes to New York to settle down. They come here to explore. They come here to chase their dreams. They come here like looking for something. And like oftentimes that doesn't involve like finding a relationship right away. If someone's like leaving the city and not too long, because it's a pretty transient city. Also, you know, they're not in a headspace for commitment. So I would say, yeah, like finding people who want commitment is ultimately one of the hardest part, in a way where it is like consistent and monogamous, which is what I'm looking for at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I met my girlfriend like a year and a half ago, but I remember prior to meeting her, and I was, you know, I was out dating in New York. There's so many different people, and there's so many people that I feel that I would not have met if it wasn't for just being in the city or being, you know, being in New York, because our paths crossed in one way or the other, whether it's mutual friends, whether it's just being out, or whether it's just on like a dating app, for example. But I feel like with all the people that I met, I got to learn something about myself, and I got to learn about my preferences and what I like in a partner, what I dislike. And I think that led me closer to when I met my girlfriend. I was just like, okay, now I have a very clear idea of what I want, because I went through all this, you know, I went through all these side quests, or not side quests. That's a bad way to. People are not side quests. Or like, I was able to, you know, I like learned so much from all my different experiences. All the people I met, they kind of paved the way to help me realize what I want and what I value in a relationship. So I totally agree with that. And commitment also seems to be very difficult, because in a city with millions of people, you feel like you're like one swipe away from, you know, seeing what's out there, or like seeing what else is out there, or like, you can always find someone that's a little bit smarter, a little bit taller, a little bit more attractive, a little bit more successful, a little bit, etc. So like, I totally agree. And I have been on both sides of that, where I'm just like, someone has been like, oh, like I like you, but then I'm like, oh, I'm not like super into it. And I've said to some girls like, hey, like I like where this is going, like let's keep it up, and they're just like, actually I'm out of here.
So. I'm curious for you, because you mentioned that like all of your side quests that or non-side quests.
People are not side quests.
Non-side
Humans
quests.
are not side quests.
Not side quests. Yeah, pave the path for you understanding what you want, and you had a good sense when you met your girlfriend. So what was it that you wanted at that point?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that the first time I ever downloaded a dating app was February 2022. Right? Before that, all the people that I've dated just met organically through school, through whatever, through friends of friends. And that was that. When I made my dating app profile for the first time, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted. I'm just like, oh, they're gonna be nice, they're gonna be kind, they're gonna be like, you know, whatever, they might have these hobbies, it should be pretty simple. But then I was in for a very wild ride. But I think that as I met people, I got to see things on a macro and on a micro level. Like there's some like big picture ideas, like being open-minded or like being very empathetic or being open to trying new things kind of fits in with open-mindedness. Also, like getting to know people's conflict resolution styles. When when we have a disagreement or something, are we able to resolve it, or does it just kind of like turn into a stalemate? Down to like very micro, like granular level, like how hygienic are they, how clean are they, like, you know, is their apartment clean? Like,
you sound like you've seen some shit.
I've seen a little bit, but I think that by meeting all these different people, I was able to get a better sense of what I really value and what kind of aligns with me the most. And when I met my girlfriend, it was just, I feel like from our first date, we were aligned on a lot of different things. We're aligned on like big picture goals and also small things, like, you know, she's also kind of a germaphobe, and she's like kind of like a, you know, we're both kind of neat freaks, and we're both like, you know, we have these like weird quirks that are complementary to each other. But I don't think that I would have known that if I hadn't dated these other people. And also I think that everyone that we date kind of makes us who we are, and everyone that we date kind of forms us into the person that we are today. So, you know, the version that you're getting is the result of people from the past.
Yeah, definitely. I want to highlight that last point you just made, because I think it's really important. Something that I've like wanted to remind myself of is trusting the process. And as someone who has dated extensively, which it sounds like for you also, I think it can be okay, not extensively, sorry, no, cut that out. Okay. Not extensively, no side questions.
Just a little bit.
As someone who has dated around a bit, I think it's easy to put pressure on yourself and like judge yourself for like the people where it hasn't worked out, or it's like the ones that you turned down, and it's like, should I have turned them down? Or it's like, why didn't these other ones, you know, timing, circumstance, like fit, whatever it is. But yeah, to your point, I think, yeah, when I look back on the people that I've been with and like what I learned from them, and also recently reflecting on like why I like dated them for some time, even if I don't think they were like the ideal fit for me. Like I think that's been very illuminating and like allowed me to have more compassion for myself. So for example, it's like maybe I dated them because I wanted companionship at that time, you know, and it's like that's a natural human urge. Like it had been a while since I'd like had someone like steady to be with. Maybe they created like a really safe space, and there was strong like emotional attraction. Maybe there was strong physical attraction, and we just had like a good connection as people. I think there's like all these factors that go into like the person that you're with and the kind of dynamic that you can have with them, where like all of them look a bit different. But then if there's important factors such as the commitment piece missing, you know, again, like whether it's timing or like some other factor, like at the end of the day, like it's probably just not the right time or like the right person or the right fit, whatever it is. Yeah, but I think it's really important, and like this is kind of a note to myself also as I enter my 30s, you know, as a single woman, like feeling like generally really good about things still, but that to give myself grace. And I hope that, you know, for anyone listening also, like who might be on their own dating journeys, that like you are who you are now because of your past experiences. And yeah, it's like what can you take from them moving forward, right? And to like forgive yourself, forgive others, even if they made the wrong decision by not being with you. But it's and just take what you learned and like move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess like going off that, like in your mind, do you have a one that got away? Because I feel like I know a lot of men that feel like there's a one that got away, and they're just like, oh, if I was smarter, if I like, you know, did this, did that differently, blah, blah, blah. But I think that my friends that are female, like my female friends feel that less. Yeah. So I'm just gonna ask you, do you think that there's someone in your life that...
I don't know if okay, I guess to clarify a bit, when you say one that got away, does that have to mean that I made the choice to end it?
Either one.
Or it could be just like where the time, like for whatever
like
reason.
Either you called it, they called it, the timing just didn't work and it fizzled, like, but then looking back, you're like, oh, then maybe that could have worked out.
In a way, yes. I won't say like who will leave that a mystery.
Yeah, no identifying characteristics.
Exactly. I'm usually an open book, but I've learned some mystery doesn't hurt. So no identifying traits. I think yes, but at the same time, it's like even for the person or like people that I think of, I still also know like what might have made me, what would have been like a challenge like with more time. So for example, I don't know if like the physical like sexual attraction wasn't like as strong as I would have wanted it to be, you know. And it's like when we dated for a few months, like that's fine, but I also wonder, it's like years into it, like would the other pieces of like how safe I felt, how understood I felt, like sustained me enough, you know, while also recognizing like the attraction can grow over time. I think the one that got away is it's like this incomplete picture because there's all these unknowns of how things would have unfolded, like for better or for worse. So, and I think it's easy to romanticize like the things where maybe they didn't go for as long and been like, oh, we were perfect together. And it's like, yes, but you were also in the honeymoon phase. Absolutely. Right? For like the first however many months. So yeah, so I guess like I don't usually think of it as the one that got away in a way, because I'm also aware like I think some other human things would have come out later, and then like it would have still been just like a struggle in ways the way with anyone else. For sure.
I guess it's for the, if it didn't turn out, it's probably for the better. Or
exactly.
Like, if it was meant to be, it would have probably panned out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube and you saw that standing break, we're like close to the same height. If not, you're a little taller. I'm 6'3". How tall are you?
You're 6'5". I am 5'8".
Okay.
Yeah, 5'7", 5'8". Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I say I'm about the same. So one of us is wrong.
Lying. One of us is going with our rounding up on Hinge.
I think the doctor told me I'm 5'8". So
really? Okay. With the hair, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe the hair. It's okay. Societal standards.
Yes.
You're considered pretty tall for a girl.
Yeah.
I'm considered short for a guy, which is fine. What do you think is tougher, tall girl or short guy?
I think being a short guy is harder. I gotta say. You know, to be honest, like I haven't found my height to be an issue in dating, and I think it's also like if it has, no one's told me, you know, because it's not like people who are intimidated by my height are coming up to me and be like, I would ask you out, but you're like 5 inches taller than me. So I think it's just like what I don't know, and I guess there's still people who are taller than me. Also, I think because I've like dated people from like different like backgrounds. So for example, like if I was only dating like Asian men, then I think I would run into the issue more of like me being taller than the average Asian man or the same height. But I think because it's like people of different backgrounds, and I don't specifically see how tall they are, or it's like even on my dating app, like I guess I think I like subconsciously was like, oh, they're not 6'3", you know.
I mean, clearly I am.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like maybe they're shorter than me, you know, but it's like I still try to like give like a bit of leeway there, just because I think like apps exacerbate like these small data points, like height, your job, like your hometown. Okay, not hometown. Yeah. Maybe your hometown.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like all these things, because you just don't have the full picture of someone. So I try my best not to like allow that to influence me, especially when I'm not on the apps. Or when I am also.
For sure. So I've been the same height since high school, and I feel like I have never been like conscious of my height until I started being on a dating app. Yeah. Because I feel like at that point I was just like, oh my god, wait. I was like, wait, this is actually tougher than I thought. So I was like, oh my god, I'm this. It's just like, I've heard a quote that dating apps make you feel like you're the most unattractive and uninteresting version of yourself, and I feel like, you know, I thought that throughout my life. I was just like, I'm fun. I was just like an average dude. I think I'm like decently fun, maybe. But then until I got on a dating app, I was just like, oh wow, people are like, like you said too, the superficial things, because we have nothing else to gauge except for, you know, their job, where they're from, their, you know, their height, their whatever, and then you have like 6 pictures. That's all you have. And then if people are not into one of those things, it's just a swipe away, and then you know.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say, I heard I think from Scott Galloway, who's a professor of something somewhere, but he's done a lot of like he has a lot of stats about like men and just kind of like what they're going through, and like, yeah, for men on dating apps, I remember him saying that for the average man, so the average man being basically like the 90% of men who like feel like they're unattractive or uninteresting, because it's generally the top 10% of men that are getting the attention from everyone. For the 90% of men, they have to swipe on average 1,000 times to get one date.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Is it that much?
Yeah. I need to fact check it, but I'm pretty sure he said 1,000, and because it's like a funnel, right? So it's like you swipe on people, and like for the conversation for them to like match with you, and then from there, the number of people who like start the conversation or like respond to your messages, right, for that to get all the way to a date. Yeah, and again, like I think that's an average. So for some people it's more, some people it's less. I would guess for you it's not 1,000. I hope.
I was gonna say I don't think I swiped that much. Like as,
okay, good.
As short and ugly as I am, I feel like I was able to get some dates. So
right, yeah.
Maybe that means the face card is good. Thanks, Mom and Dad. No, I don't know. People watching this could be like, this is the ugliest guy I've ever seen. But I think that I also think that especially in, you know, like we said, in New York, because there's so many people, it's so easy to just like kind of get lost in swiping, because you're like, oh, there's always someone like one thumb stroke away, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's honestly why like I'm not on apps anymore. Yeah, I know earlier you were asking about like how I'm meeting people these days. I was on apps for a long time, so maybe like I would say it started during COVID, so I think like 3 or 4 years on and off, where it's like I go through the cycle, like delete and then undelete, whatever. And I feel like apps are just so dehumanizing, and like to what we were saying earlier, like you can't capture someone's essence and like what they care about and everything in like 6 pictures and 3 prompts, no matter how witty or like, you know, like well tailored it is. And it boils people down to these data points. And I also think it like makes you less likely to just like engage in real life and like meaningful interactions with people, because you always have this fallback of like technology, right? And like people love convenience and comfort, and like swiping away on an app is a lot more comfortable than like going up to someone in real life and like having to deal with the beautiful awkward messiness of being human, of like you ask someone out, like maybe they're not interested, or you talk to them and then you like it's like stumble over your words, you know, or like all of these things that like make us so human. And yeah, I just feel like a lot of that is lost in modern dating with like dependence on apps. And like, not to say like I'm against apps necessarily, because like for myself, I feel like I've met like some good friends actually. Like one of my best friends in New York is someone that I met on Hinge and dated for some time, and like we're in very different circles. I don't know if we would have met otherwise, so very thankful for that. But yeah, I've been generally just like out and about in the world and like meeting people at like social events, or just like different like community spaces I've been in, like storytelling ones, creative ones, like somatic movement, more kind of like healing, like spiritual ones. And I think a combination of different things like can be good. But for myself, I've been taking like a pretty long break from apps because I just didn't like how it was affecting me as a person.
For sure, yeah. I totally agree. I think that apps are a very easy fallback, or it's like a very easy fail-safe way to meet people. Yeah. Because if we met, like if I see your profile, I swipe on you, you see my profile, you swipe on me, we have an acknowledgement that both of us finds each other attractive enough to talk to each other, right? So then that's all the validation that some people need, because they're just like, oh, I know that they're down because they swiped on me, right? Versus when you see someone in person, you kind of, like you said, it's like the awkward, the like the risky, the unknown of approaching someone, and you don't know what they're gonna say, you don't know what they're gonna do, but then people kind of prefer the app because at least there's a guaranteed like, oh, if they're into me, they'll swipe on me and then we can talk, versus I don't want to go up to them because what if it's weird, what if they reject me? But that's how life works, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we all, as humans, we all crave certainty to a certain extent, but I think there's a lot of possibility that comes with the unknown. And yeah, I think like bring it back to coaching a bit, like this is something that I talk about with my clients, is nothing changes unless something changes, right? And like if you don't do anything different and you like continue to stay in your comfort zone, and like what is certain for you, like that's very easy, it's very comfortable, but the real growth and like everything that could be possible for what you want exists in like you feeling uncomfortable and having these new experiences, you know, whether it is being rejected or just like making a new friend because you like put yourself out there, you know, or like anything that could happen. And yeah, it's like the comfort zone is just like this little bubble that we exist in, but it's like everything out here is actually like the rest of life and like what your life could look like. And yeah, I also say that as a reminder to myself, because I think like with dating, it can feel very easy to crave certainty. And like for myself, I've been in that mindset before at times, of like yeah, when you meet someone on an app, I know they're looking for a long-term relationship. Like I've met a lot of people who like we're not looking for a relationship, right? So it's like I like that we have this in common, and like that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I also think there's something so beautiful about just like meeting a person and like not knowing what's gonna happen, and yeah, like you just like enjoy their company as a person, you know, and there's just like less pressure on it. You can just be yourselves a bit more. Also, it doesn't feel like you're going into dating with this goal and like scarcity mindset to a certain extent of, you know, maybe it's like I'm running out of time, or it's like, yeah, like whatever it is. And you can just like enjoy the person as a person in whatever capacity they end up being in your life, and whether it's just for the few moments of the conversation, or whether you end up becoming friends, or like maybe you date for a while, like maybe they become your long-term partner, like whatever that looks like. There's so many possibilities there. Yeah, but it's like if you bucket yourself into like this only or nothing else, you know, like maybe it'll save you time. It also adds a lot of pressure and stress, and like you end up missing out on a lot of what could unfold also.
Absolutely. Also, when you're talking about like going out in the wild and just meeting people and there's like, you know, just trying your luck and saying, and you're just like, you know, like getting rejected is natural, and then you pointed at me and you're like, of course you've been rejected.
Oh, sorry, did I?
No, you're fine. You're like, oh, of course this guy looks like he gets rejected.
You just seem like you just seem bold, audacious. I see you putting yourself out there just in life.
I guess no, I totally don't, like I'm just poking fun.
Funny, yeah,
but I totally agree with that in the sense that like when you're meeting on an app, it seems like you kind of have to put on this act almost, like you're a version of yourself that you think that they're gonna like, or you're a version of yourself that is trying to like close the deal in a way. You're trying to just like get to the date or like whatever, and you know, you might say things that you might not say in real life. And also there's some people that say some atrocious things on the app. Like I have seen my female friends like Hinge, and like their conversations, some of these guys just like go straight for the kill, and they're just like, where's the class?
Chivalry,
Chivalry is not
modern.
That. So, but one thing you mentioned that one of your closest friends in the city is someone that you met on Hinge. Yeah. What are your thoughts on people that are friends with an ex, or like, you know, because you technically were dating this person for a little bit, so
that's true. Yeah, shout out to Mike. Okay, so
Mike, if you're watching this,
Mike is the best. Okay, so I would say, I'm friends with like a few people I've dated. I would say Mike is just like the one where I think we're the closest out of them. I would say that I think it depends on the person and like the dynamic you have with them, but I my view on it is I view humans like experiences. Or I try to in my best state. I do. And I feel like if you want someone in your life, there's a reason for that, right? And like, even if it's not in the way that you might have wanted them to be at one point. So like we started off dating, right? We tried it out, decided that wasn't the fit for us necessarily, but we connect on such an like intellectual, emotional, like personal level, and understand each other so well, and like have both taught and learned from each other. yeah, like I want that person in my life still, you know. And I think it's can be a shame to like throw that away simply because if we have this like rule for ourselves that like we can't be friends with exes, which I do think is the way that people usually approach that. But again, like I think it depends on the dynamic. And like, for example, if there's someone where you just feel like way too attracted to them, you know, and it's like when you're in their presence, like chemistry is palpable. It's just really, it's really hard to be
down
like
bad.
Exactly, down bad. Yeah, digmatized. Okay, yeah. You can decide if you want to keep that. Yeah, then that's like it's harder to be friends with them, right? Because it's like, I don't know, something about the pheromones and all of that. It's like you want them as more than a friend. But I think it really just like varies situation by situation for me. Yeah, and I don't think it should be, I think like my approach to a lot of things is I don't want to have like a hard and fast rule about this that is completely inflexible, because I think that life is complicated and like human dynamics and relationships are complicated. And again, it's like what are we losing out on if we apply these rules to like the way that we can interact with people or like anything else in that realm?
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with that in terms of when you say that I don't want any rules that are inflexible or anything that's hard and fast. Because I think as humans, we like rules. And like you said, we like certainty. We like having some guidelines and some bumpers in place.
Yeah.
But then I think that most of the time in life, it's not a black or white. It's everything's in the gray area.
Yeah.
So like we want to have these rules for ourselves, but then at the same time, it's so much that whatever the circumstance you're in, it's very situational and it's very scenario. It's like it's based on the scenario. There's no like hard and fast rule per se.
Yeah, and like I was gonna say, like with any space, like rules, and I would say like best practices also is something that I think can overlap with rules a lot. But when it comes to best practices with dating, like you just hear conflicting things. So for example, like advice I've gotten about dating is that like, you know, on the first date, like I'm standing my ground and it's like, let me ask them what they're looking for and like proudly declare what I'm looking for, right? To see if it's a fit. But then on the other hand, I've also gotten the complete opposite advice of like playing the game, but in a way where it's not manipulative, you know, and, you know, like I don't want it that much, you know, and like if I don't want it that much because I'm confident in who I am, then I don't need to be asking on the first date because I don't care that much.
Yeah.
And again, like I don't know like what's right or wrong. There's like arguments for both sides, but I think it's like, for me, I've just tried to like sift through the noise and like sift through the best practices and knowing that like, and like the rules. And it's just like sometimes like neither of these approaches apply to me, you know, and it's like what it actually feels true to me and like the way that I want to show up with people and like the values and like things that I care about. And like maybe at certain points in my life that will look like on the first date, like asking like what they're looking for, because I care about like open, transparent, clear communication. And maybe at other points, like right now, I want a relationship, but I'm not at a point where I'm prioritizing it that much, and instead I'm just letting whatever happen. So then maybe, yeah, like this other best practice of just like not bringing it up is more applicable because it's just not on my mind that much, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, it's like, yeah, you change as a person, so maybe it's that different advice will work at different times. But again, the main takeaway being not to like hold yourself like only to this rule, because you get a lot of people giving you advice about dating, I would say. Yeah. And it gets hard. It's hard
to sift through the noise. But I think it's also important that there's no right or wrong, but it's more so what works for you and what feels best to you. Because some people are just like, they want to know from the get-go. They want to know like right away before they get started, which is fine. But there's some people that are like more go with the flow, and that's totally fine too. So I think it's, you know, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, you know, watching a ton of videos or reading a bunch of articles and like Reddit posts about like, when do you ask for this? When do you tell them this? But it's whatever makes you feel the best. Like, you personally.
Exactly. Yeah. And like not doing it. I'll just add like one note. It's like making sure that it's coming from an empowered place, which I think can be tricky to discern. But like comes with time, is understanding like what actually feels true to you versus like what you're doing out of fear. And like sometimes the action can be the same, but the like intention and like place that you're coming from can affect whether it's an empowered decision or a disempowered decision, right? Such as, for example, like, yeah, again, like not bringing up the relationship piece, like even though I wanted to on the first date, that's disempowered, versus like, yeah, like I don't want to bring it up because I don't feel the need to bring it up, but I'm consciously aware of that. Like the important part is, yeah, being cognizant and like choosing for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember there was this girl I went on a first date with. Like we were getting dinner.
Yeah.
We literally, like, I made the reservation. We both showed up. They showed us to our table. We sat down. They gave us the menu. I opened the menu and I was just like, okay, yeah, like let's look and see what looks good. And we were not even like 7 minutes into this date, and she was just like, so what are you looking for? Like, what do you want to get out of this?
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
just went for it.
I was like, oh, are we getting like the...
Just like taking notes in her notepad.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wait, are we talking about food, or are we talking about like...
Yeah. Oh, it's true. Like we haven't even ordered.
we haven't even ordered
Let
yet.
a man eat. Yeah.
So, but like, obviously that was like totally fine, because then I was just like, all right, I guess we're doing this, right? Like if she was the type that she wanted to know from the start, and we ended up having like a 3-hour conversation. So that was like it was cool, but obviously I didn't expect it. But like you said, whatever empowers you and whatever feels the most true to you, I think is totally fine. But I guess going back to the topic of meeting people, I remember last time we were hanging out, you kind of mentioned that there's like 4 types of different serendipity, because I know people want to meet someone in the wild, people want to meet someone organically, people are like leaving it up to chance, leaving it up to fate, leaving it up to serendipity. But when you said that there's 4 different types, can you give us like a really brief like sentence of what each of the 4 are?
Yeah, definitely. And I want to give a bit of credit first, because I learned this framework called Optimize for Serendipity from this like online like training and community for coaching called Coaching from Essence, which was put together by this executive coach called Robert Ellis, and it's amazing, and it's so powerful and meaningful. So I want to make sure that he gets credit, because he created this like community and shared everything he knew when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, which he's still been battling through. And yeah, the concept is optimized for serendipities, and there's 4 kinds. And the reason why it's called that is because the optimized part, which is generally a word I don't like because it feels a little too like it's efficiency and like, we're talking about humans. But optimized just meaning you take action, you're intentional about it. You're participating. And then serendipity is like luck, chance, magic, happenstance, whatever you want to call it. And there's like a balance of both. So the 4 parts are, the first one is, pure chance, right? So I think this is the serendipity that people usually think of, where it's like there's no intention at all. You're just like out walking on the street, and then you happen to bump into the love of your life. It's like they trip you a little bit, you like land in their arms, the rom-coms. It's just like pure chance. But then there's these 3 other kinds also that we don't talk about as much, which the second one is curiosity and experimentation. So this one can look like, for example, like going on dating app dates, right? You're out there, you're experimenting, you're learning. It could look like going to social events or going to like running clubs, which, as they say, is like the in-person dating app now.
Shout out to lunch.
There we go. And that's like you being curious. It's you like experimenting in like different places, still with the intention of like meeting someone. And then the third type of serendipity is just making connections and building relationships. So for example, maybe it's like a friend that ends up setting you up. Maybe it's your roommate's sister's girlfriend that happens, that ends up setting you up because you like met them this one time at this event. And then the 4th kind is wandering and wondering. And this one it's kind of similar to curiosity and experimentation, but the idea is you're just out there doing things you're interested in, like participating in the world without the intention of meeting someone, like in a romantic way, but you're still going into it with an open heart and an open mind. And I think like for myself, I was more in the realm of like number 2 for some time. So like curiosity and experimentation. I was on the apps for a while, like going to like social events and things like that. And then like I've also expanded in number 3 and number 4, where it's like, yeah, like making connections. I've just been like making new friends, and like sometimes I meet their friends and sometimes we hit it off. And then the 4th one, again, of wandering and wondering, like that's a newer one for me that I've really been enjoying. Is, again, I've just been like pursuing my interests in ways, and then like not necessarily going there because I'm like, okay, I want to find like the man of my dreams here, but instead it's like I just want to meet people that I like connect with and that I think are cool, you know, where we can have good conversations. And I'm open to if one of them ends up also being interested in me, and like vice versa, and that goes somewhere. But I'm not, the difference in a lot of this is like your intention going into it, and how open to, like, I would say like surrender you are, and just kind of, and this is like the more spiritual side of me talking, is just kind of like trusting in what the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, like has in store for you, and that is going to happen. And like if it doesn't happen, that's also okay, because I think a big part of this is as well like accepting in a way that like you'll be okay, like even if you don't find someone, right? And I think that's, I've talked to a few friends where it's like they said they came to that acceptance that like I would be okay if for the rest of my life I didn't find someone, and then that's when they met someone after that, because again you're loosening the pressure. Like no one likes to be forced into doing things, right? You're just like letting it happen organically, and then that's when beautiful things happen.
Absolutely. I think that serendipity, like people think of it as you're walking on the street and suddenly the wind blows and then someone appears right in front of you. But I don't think that is, you know, super realistic, or the chance of that happening is extremely low. But I think that what you're saying too, I think serendipity is kind of positioning yourself and kind of putting yourself in scenarios or situations that let you meet people, whether it's like social settings or like you know meeting your friends of friends and expanding your network. And I think that that's a great way to kind of allow for serendipity to happen. That's not the windswept Disney movie, right?
It is like increasing the number of events that can just like happen in your life. So whether it's like an actual event you're going to, or just like, again, you're walking on the street, you're just like out there in the world. And then also the kind of event, right? And like being intentional with that. It's like, what kind of people do you want to surround yourself with, and what kind of life do you want to have in general? And it's like if you're able to like quantitatively and qualitatively like optimize for serendipity as it is, and that just increases your chances of good things happening, whether it's romantic or otherwise.
Absolutely. I think I've always been a believer in the sentiment where it's like you want to be who you'd want to attract, because I think that it's very common, and I think that this is very true with like the like red pill like incel like, community on like Reddit and everything. They're just like you know, these like really bum guys, but then they're just like, oh, this girl's got to be like a 10 out of 10 and like check all these boxes and do all these things and have XYZ, but it's like those girls would not even like spit in your direction, right? So it's like be the type of guy that you know you'd want to attract, right? It's just like, oh, if you want a girl that's like XYZ, then maybe I have to do XYZ myself in order for her to like me.
That is true. Yes, very true. Law of attraction, as they say. I think it's that. I also like, I think just like one small caveat I want to add is to also just do these things for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, and this is like coming from someone where it's like, I think for some time in my life I heard that, you know, and it's like I'm living my best life, but like in the back of my mind it was also like, oh, I'm living my best life. So people might notice like, oh, she seems like she's living her best life.
She's
like
having fun.
She's having fun. She's out there. But I think it's really important to, just like live your best life. And again, like be the kind of person that you want to be for yourself, and making sure that that's like your like motivation for doing that, versus it's like solely for like this other person that might never show up, you know?
Absolutely, I think that when you invest in yourself and you take care of yourself, and like you said, you show up for yourself, I think that's when you position yourself to be in a better place to attract like a better mate, right? Like, or it's just like when people are like, oh, I want to like work out more, I want to be more active, I want to, you know, learn an instrument, I want to learn a new skill. People might want to do that in the hopes of attracting someone, but when they do that for yourself and there's like that intrinsic motivation, people will naturally be attracted to that, because it's like, oh, you like did that on your own.
Exactly. And it's like also ultimately you're the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. You know, like whether someone comes in because they're like attracted to, you know, like you're playing instruments and any of that, like that's all wonderful, but yeah, it's like no matter who comes in or out too.
I really like that quote, like you're the person you're gonna be with for the rest of your life, so it's like make sure you're treating yourself right.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, make sure you treat yourself well, make sure you would take care of yourself the way that you take care of other people, because I think a lot of times, you know, it's like we put other people before ourselves, and it's like we're dating someone and we like maybe we like elevate them onto this pedestal, and now we're just like, oh, like what do you need, like etc. But yeah, it's like what if we turn that attention and energy to ourselves, right? It's like, what do I need in this moment? I need some rest, I need some alone time, I want to go out dancing, I think I'm hungry, you know. Just like and again, like I think like showing yourself all of that love also will make you a better person and just like partner for someone else later on. Like again, like for your partner, just the way you show up for your friends, like it's just a muscle that we continue to hone, like no matter who is in the picture, but ultimately like it is for us. Yeah,
absolutely. What's something that a lot of people get wrong about dating, and I guess like as a coach, what would your advice to those people be?
Oh, good question. Let me think about that a little.
Take your time.
I think people choose people that are not ultimately the person that could bring out their best selves. And I think there's a lot of people that we can be like compatible with, that we can build lives with. And again, it's like they bring out different sides of us. Maybe some of them it's like a lighter, like more humorous side, and for other people it's just, again, it's like really safe, like space. But what I see happening sometimes, and like what I've done at times, is not knowing that this person is someone that we could be with like for a long time, but we have a lot of challenges, and we have probably more challenges than we need to have, whether it's because we're like different people to begin with, whether it's like we fell for like physical attraction like early on. I just think that life is short, and like it could be so empowering and so much fuller when you are with someone who like provides companionship and also just like adds to your life in like a lot of positive ways, versus like detracting from it and like causing more stress and, you know, like a lot of these other things. And it's easier said than done, but I would want to, like, for all of us to like make sure that the person that we're with is someone that we do believe brings out our best selves, truly, like who we are now and who we want to be in the future, and can to some extent like inspire us like in that regard.
100%. I've always thought that it's better to be single than to be in a bad relationship. Just because I think that when you're in a good relationship and you can, both people can mutually support each other, then you feel like you're on top of the world, right? Versus when you're in a bad relationship, it almost feels like it's like a ball and chain, right? It's like they're holding you back. So
exactly,
I think that's perfect advice. Where I know settling has a very negative connotation, but it's just like, you know, look for someone that's really going to complement your lifestyle and really fit you and really match you. And I think that, I know that there's a lot of different people in this world, but I think that we're just looking to find someone that's our match, right? Like, you know, there's going to be some people that are closer to that and some that are going to be farther away, but then when you find someone that is the match, you can really go the distance together.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just like, life is so hard already, you know? And it's like if life is so hard and then you have someone that's making it harder, that ideally would be making it easier, it just, like you were saying, it's okay to just be by yourself, you know? There's nothing wrong with that.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, if you are interested in seeing more of Tiff or getting some coaching, please feel free to DM her. Her handle and her information will be in the description below. But Tiff, thank you so much for coming to the talking stage.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. And I feel like just a really good, thought-provoking, I feel like I'm leaving with like more food for thought and a better understanding of myself also, and like getting the chance to like reflect on my own dating journey as well, and like where I'm at now and how's that changed from before. So yeah, really thank you for creating this opportunity and space.
Of course, I'm glad. I mean, I'm very flattered. Thank you for coming on and for speaking
of course,
today.
yes, yeah.
All right, Talking Stage, like and subscribe for more.